Are you going to want to just sort of walk around and have me?
I don't know. I'm not in charge. You're in charge. He's the choreographer.
We need the producer.
Sarah.
Yes.
Let's see. I met you at an art show at Arts Benicia in about 93. I says, my God, where is she from? I haven't seen her before. I'm going to follow her around. And she was looking at all the best paintings in there. I said, well, she's not just a pretty face.
Which happened to be yours, by the way.
Oh, they did? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all of this started well before that, I guess. I put some old pieces on the wall just as a comparison to see what I'm doing now as to what I used to do. And I think the earliest piece that I did was in 1971, which is this one here. And I had just gotten over a debilitating illness, and for about 3 months, and I couldn't walk or anything, and art really sort of pulled me back. And the first time I went out, after I got better and I could drive, as I went down, I found an old barn. Look, there's cobwebs in here.
That's great.
An old barn down near Danville, and so that's dated 71. And before 71, I did a lot of just, abstract stuff, figures, some landscapes and stuff. But during the early 80s is when I dropped it for a while. In the early 80s, I got back into it. My boys left the house, and I had the studio back, and then I said I needed to have something to do, and so I started painting again.
Now, is that the period of time when you were going out with Lundy Segrist?
I started going out with Lundy about 83, and he died in 84, so it was about a year there that he was able to go out.
So that really gives you a direct link to the Society of Six.
Yeah.
Lundy, of course, was the son of Lou Segrist of the Society of Six. That's pretty exciting. Different from your later works, you don't use the impasto paint that you've used in the past. It's almost like a very quick sketch. Mm-hmm. Is that what you were?
I think so. Very thin. Very thin paint.
Yeah.
And then I move up to into the later on 86. See, and things start to get thicker and more painterly and with more brush strokes.
Well, also, it looks like they become a little more abstract and even flattened out, almost a fauve thing going on.
I think by this time I didn't know Lundy at that period, but here I had been out painting with he and Peter Brown and Terry St. John and Paul Carey.
Paul Carey,
right.
Yeah.
This was later than this. Now, this was 83. This is when I started painting again. I gave it up for my kids are at home, and so this was sort of earlier than that, and I'm not sure where this fits in, but it's on really cheap stuff, and I was kind of in a midlife crisis at this point, and
another midlife crisis.
Yeah, I had several, and we won't go into. And
do you remember where you were at this?
Yeah, that's going over the Antioch Bridge, and you go up, you hit the river, and you turn right, and you follow around, and you finally come to another bridge, and here's the river, and then there's a river that comes in here, and there's a bait shop here, and a gas station, and I can't tell you.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
So you remember every place you painted when you look at it?
I pretty do.
Is that because you go back and repaint a lot, or you're no?
I have a visual memory, usually who I was with and where it is. Like this one, I had just started painting again, 83, and I needed to get out of the office and do something, creative, and I was really bogged down. So I went out, and this is Benicia.
I can see that.
I was sitting in the mud, in the mud flats here, and this is that house that's not there anymore. It's fallen in since
on a pier.
And this is the hills where you live, up back over in there.
Yes.
And that sort of saved my life. And in early '83, I started getting more focused into.
And what do you mean it saved your life?
Well, I was in another crisis, and the first one was 71, and then 12 years later, I got into another crisis. And
I see.
This pulled me out of that, and so see this stuff. And then I had another period of these two, 87, where I started going kind of berserk with color, and I couldn't get enough color. I was just really...
Boy, that is pure fauve.
Yeah.
That looks like Vlamic or one of those fellows, Duran.
Yeah.
Very flat. Were you conscious of having a huge shift at that time?
No.
In your color?
It just sort of wasn't thinking too much about it. I enjoyed what was going on. I started putting, like pinks next to hot reds, next to, orange,
Yes.
and then burning it in, and it was just so much fun. I remember this was in the shade, and I just said, well, I don't know, I need something in here, but it livened the whole thing up. It gave it a little power, almost.
And it's interesting because these days you use a lot of dark and light, a lot of shadow. This is pretty flat, almost like a pattern, like Matisse. Do you remember who you were painting with at that point?
I was alone.
Oh, were you?
This was the Soda Works that's still there in Crockett, up above Pomona, and it had a sign out in front of it that said Crockett Soda Works, and they used to make sodas.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is this still there?
Yeah, still there, but no, somebody's renting it.
Yeah.
Somebody used it for a studio. Older version of Down on the Waterfront, 94. I started moving up toward that, and this is down on the Benicia waterfront with the old train station and the hills and stuff. And it's another shift. I don't paint like this anymore.
And what's the distinction? What is the shift?
I've changed mood and this degree of saturation of color. I didn't understand color at all when I've been in that. And I'm starting to get a little better angle on it when I'm starting to do some of these.
And when you say you didn't understand it, what does that mean?
That means I was winging it.
But yet, this has a lot of emotion to me compared to the last work we saw, which was pretty flat and decorative.
Oh, you? And
I
so
see some emotion.
Are you reading it that I was ready to go?
Oh, is that what it was? Yeah.
Is that what you're reading?
I knew it was some kind of an emotion.
Well, that's just what, I used to say that I don't really get mad too easily. The one thing that really ticks me off is I have a palette with a lid on it, and I put a little thing of terp here right in the palette. It's got an edge around like this. And I paint, and I dip here and do this. When I tip that turpentine over into that palette, I go ballistic, and it happened 3 times that I can remember. The last one, I was so ballistic, I put my foot through the canvas.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, that's a painting I'd like to see.
Oh, yeah, I wish somebody had taken a picture of that. And Bill was with me, Rushton.
Yeah.
And they were laughing.
Oh. Oh, my
God. And then another one, I broke my palette. I just
Was that another midlife crisis?
That was no, that didn't count. That was just a mini blow up.
Mini blow up. He's part of the Outsiders, the group that you're now veteran member of. When did you start?
It was about 90, 91. I was eager to start a class up, and Bill Rushton.
Yeah.
I didn't know Bill. He called me up out of nowhere and said, "Are you Jerrold Turner?" "Yeah, I am." He said, "Well, I just saw your show at the Sunnyvale Art Center, and do you do classes?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess so. I'm just thinking about doing one, as a matter of fact." And so the same thing happened. Bill, Bob Chapla called me up and said, "I got your name from somebody, and do you do classes?" I said, "Yeah." And then Bill Apton, you probably don't remember him. He's from Marin County, and there's 3 other ones. And then all of a sudden, I had 6 people to do classes with in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And Nikki Davis, yeah. Because I'd been painting with her before in oils. And so we started in just doing the Saturday thing. I'd call them up and say, "We're going to go to China Camp on Saturday." And so we'd all meet up there and we'd paint and everything. And then it was way down the line we did The Outsiders. When was that?
Well, I remember when I first saw your work, and it was in this very spot, but it wasn't called Epperson Gallery. It was Designs in Crockett.
Designs in Crockett.
And they had all kinds of things that weren't necessarily paintings, but your paintings were rimming above the molding, and I looked up and I said, this is good stuff. And that's when I wanted to get to know who you were. And I was so impressed with the work because I'd been familiar with the Society of Six.
Yeah, that's why I gave you a huge discount. I can't resist.
Yeah.
Another thing with the Epperson Gallery was called Designs in Crockett, and it was Carrie England that had it.
Yeah.
And she didn't have any painting. She had a lot of her own design work and stuff in it.
Yes.
And she said, "You want to put up some paintings?" I said, "Yeah, sure, it'd be great. It'd be fun." And she did that, and she sold a couple, and I thought, well, this is kind of neat. And then she sold it to Jerry Epperson, and then it became, the rest is history. It became
right, Epperson Gallery.
Gallery, and it used to be called the Nash. Jerry, what was it? Nash Auto Center.
Nash Gallery.
Yeah.
Because it had been an old Nash dealership.
It was an old Nash dealership.
Yeah.
And when you moved in, he started calling it the Nash Gallery. And
what happened then after the 90s? Show me the evolution.
Well, we had started having several shows and stuff, and I went through another crisis about 5 years ago where I just was ready to give it up, and I started to just let it loose. Just whatever came out of the tube, I just slapping it around and just had fun. I said, I don't care if I ever sell another painting. I don't care if anybody ever likes it again. And this is like me healing.
Yes.
And started pushing down a lot of paint and everything. The paint of that period was like
okay.
that. And that's a China camp painting.
Boy, that's about as abstract as you've gotten up till now, I would say.
Almost, yeah. And that's looking down on the beach, and these are people here, and there's a lot of little houses and stuff in here, and the sun comes through at the end of the day, and it lightens.
That is fantastic. I haven't seen that painting before.
That was the first.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so.
What's the year of that?
This is I didn't put this in here. 03.
03, okay. Now let me ask you, looking at that, I'm reminded of Terry St. John's work, of course on a smaller scale. Was there any kind of influence there with Terry, or were you out painting with him at that time?
No, I didn't really continue very far into the 80s. See, Lundy died in 84, and I started going with him a little bit, but we were on a whole different wavelength, and I needed to go my own way, and I think everybody influences you. I probably got somewhat of influence in this level here. This is an earlier one. This is the two bridges before they took this down. And I would like to continue doing crazy and outrageous things, but so what happens is you move fast. You don't want to stay in one place anyway. You want to keep evolving and moving. And one thing about having a business in engineering is that it takes you out of the spaces that you're in your artwork, so that you don't get stuck very easily. You to get out of that into engineering takes a completely different kind of mindset, and it breaks up any of the lethargy that you've gotten in your art career. So when you get back, you get fresh eyes.
Yes, I understand.
Virginia City is probably one of the biggest influences.
Let's talk about this. This is a beauty.
This is the two churches, I call it, and it was the period when I was doing this. This was about when I was coming out of that crisis and slinging paint all over the place. And This big monumental thing is the Catholic Church, and this little one back here is the Presbyterian
Oh,
Church.
yes, I remember that from my
One's wood and
childhood.
one's concrete and
Right.
stone.
Yes, yes.
And that's a kind of a favorite little spot right there because of the churches, right? Kind of, say, call that the center of town. And then this is sort of a little bit past that, but not too far off, where I'm down below looking up on the main drag, and there's cars parked along here, but this is called the Bucket of Blood.
Oh, yes.
And
a saloon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still there.
Used to go there as a kid.
And this is sort of the sloppy stuff that I was slinging paint, and I was enjoying, just the movement of it. And in contrast to things that are a little more softer and a little more well controlled.
Yeah.
You move into, this is just done several months
China
ago.
camp, right?
China camp in the late afternoon.
Yeah.
And in contrast to the slapdash period before, where everything was more abstract, this is abstract still, but it's it's softer, as a soft. And these are all fairly much in the same time. That I did the same time of the one on
China camp there.
China camp. And this is fairly recent. This was in Mexico, down by the river Puerto Vallarta, about 10 miles south of there. And there's a river, small river that comes out toward the ocean. And the kids play in there, and there's the dogs and everything, and the guys pull up their boats. And it's just kind of a...
You've captured sort of the spirit of vacation and play. Where is that?
That's up on Grizzly Peak, looking down Claremont Canyon. It's one of several. It's a great spot where you come up from Fish Ranch Road and you drive up a little ways around Grizzly Peak, and you're looking down through the canyon, and off in the distance is the bay and the city. And
what time of day was this?
Oh, probably late afternoon.
Because of the color. Often on that road it's very misty and sort of a monochromatic, but you've caught a lot of, looks like the sun going down maybe.
I spent more time with this searching for something more than was there. I mean, if you paint what's there, you're going to get an image of something that becomes boring pretty fast. So what you do is you take a suggestion from the atmosphere and the feeling and the colors, and you explore. And as soon as you can get away from the scene and into yourself, the better it is. So when I'm going out with the classes, I tell them to stop looking at it at some point. Don't be too influenced by it. It'll keep you there. It'll keep you with what is in front of you. So get back away from it and start working from in here. I'm not sure what you
So it's like you've captured the essence of the place and not really what it looks like so much.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, did you use palette knife in this? Because I've noticed with some of your work you alternate. How does that work?
I used to do just palette knife for a while, and then I'm back and forth. It depends on a palette knife you have to have enough paint here to move around. You have to get, because the palette knife, if there's not enough paint there, a brush can just softly touch the top and scumble it. But a palette knife, you need enough to make it move. And I call that the critical mass. You've got to have enough paint there so that palette knife can dance around, and you can push it around and mold it and scrape it.
And it becomes almost sculptural with the amount of paint.
Yes, or what do they call it? Bas relief?
Bas relief.
Bas relief.
Yeah.
Get almost
luscious, sort of juicy, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And then this is probably mostly all palette knife. And
is that Virginia City?
Yeah, that's the main street in Virginia City.
Beautiful.
That's the little last ones I did. It's pretty loose.
I love it.
Yeah, and another one, I'm doing a larger one of that, a 24 square, and a larger version of it.
So is that something that you often do? You'll do a plein air sketch
Sometimes.
And then you'll translate it
Sometimes.
into a bigger piece?
Yeah, it depends on what it is. Sometimes I tried to do a larger one of this and it just died. And just I couldn't get anything really going, and so I used that to just paint this one over that one, and I'm still working on it.
Which makes it interesting because you get more texture.
Yes. Oh yeah, you get all that good stuff underneath. And incidentally, there's an energy thing here where you do a painting underneath, and you're spending a couple of hours on this painting, and you're giving it all of this energy that you have inside you, and the paint is manifesting from your heart, really, heart and mind, and then you don't lose that. It stores it up, and so you put another painting over it, and sometimes they just happen on their own, and I say, why is it so nice to work on an old painting, and some things really start to happen? It's because you still put all that energy in the first place onto the canvas, and you're still reaping the benefits of that.
Boy, that's interesting. And could a lot of time have passed between?
Yes, doesn't matter.
When you did the original and
doesn't matter. Go to the Southwest and look at the hieroglyphics and the rock paintings. They still have the energy.
Wow, I've got chills.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Nothing ever is lost.
Yeah.
There's no energy.
Yeah.
There's no really energy lost. It's just transformation.
Interesting.
You know.
Yes.
And the same with anything coming from a human or a living thing, but particularly humans have this ability to send out this energy field on things around everything they touch. They do the hieroglyphics. You do a painting. You write. It picks up your energy field, and it lasts forever. You fall in love, and 5 years later you go, goodbye, I don't love you anymore. But it doesn't work because you're going to carry that with you, and your mind thinks that you're...
Because it was real at the time.
Yeah, your mind thinks that you're getting away from it, but your heart doesn't ever forget.
Wow, that's interesting.
Okay.
Very interesting.
My theory. And this one here is kind of fun. It's actually two paintings. So I call it a diptych. And I didn't have.
I see.
I didn't have a long canvas. Here,
I didn't see that when I first looked at it.
I just put two together.
Yes.
And you can see the seam on it.
Oh yes.
And so I thought, well, I'll try it where I can use two paintings, and each one can stand on its own. And,
wow, that's interesting.
So that you take one away, you still got a good painting over here. You take this one away, you still got a good painting over there. And that was the idea. And but I kept looking at it thinking, well, I don't want to really take them apart. So I'm going to just leave them together, but I'll have to do something. What I'm going to do is actually separate them so that there's a dark line here like here. So that it would be a true diptych. Yeah.
But you did paint them together.
I did paint them together.
Yeah, after you put them together. The time of year. So this looks like a winter scene to me, or spring.
Yeah, we were out there with, remember that day? We were all painting out there, all the Benicia Plein Air group.
You had talked about, you went through another midlife crisis and you just started slapping paint around. What evolved after that? Did you settle down more into a particular style?
I took a lot of old paintings and started
reworking them
around and having fun with the old ones, which were boring.
Show us one.
That was one. That was a very much...
This one, okay.
That was a very, ordinary painting, and with the houses and everything you could see, and the pier going out and everything, and after it was like looking at your life and saying, this is a boring life, and therefore I did a boring painting because my life was boring. So this is like fixing your life. I'm going to fix it.
Spice it up.
Yeah, and so that's what I started just thinking, this is like I'm working on myself when I'm doing this. Paint is therapy,
Yeah. Well, what came after that then? What was the next phase?
I don't really have... I have a few that I don't have. I mean, I did a lot of them, but I don't have them anymore.
What you're saying, it sounds like, is you're really coming with each period from within, what's going on with you, and not so much being influenced by other artists or even painting with other artists. Is that
No,
Is that right or not?
I wasn't interested in influenced by anybody.
Yeah.
In fact, I wasn't influenced really by the place I was painting.
Okay.
Or the scene or anything. I was really, I was just really in a space that was organizing colors and shapes, and had nothing to do really with. I mean, there was still an influence of where it was, but I was seeing it totally different. I was starting to see things totally different. And then you jump from that period and you go to this period where, all of a sudden you've got thick paint, but things are starting to be, the shapes are, understandable. They're not big blobs. That they're, more realism.
And was that a conscious decision, or
No.
you just saw it evolve through you? Because this to me looks expressionistic, modern art. And I'm looking at this, and this is more of a traditional, maybe even impressionistic.
No.
So you go back and forth.
Oh yeah.
There's not a direct evolutionary line, it sounds like.
Like sometimes you go back and revert to that thick paint again. And you do something like this where there's buildings and cars and everything, but you all of a sudden you revert to an earlier period where you sort of remember how that worked, and you try to connect with some of the things you already know how to do. I mean, this was breaking new ground for me. This wasn't really breaking anything new. This was kind of breaking new ground.
In what way?
In that I was completely getting away from realistic scenery, and was just focusing on atmosphere and colors.
It's very flat,
Yeah,
modern.
yeah, it's very modern. Bug.
Oh, a bug. Yeah, talk about bugs. Do they become part of the work sometime?
Yeah, bugs just,
Bugs is good.
yeah.
Or if you drop a painting, and can you work with that?
Oh yeah, everyone drops one jelly side down in their career, and you don't want to mess with it, and you want to let it dry so you can, they come off. But sometimes you can pick it up and just smoosh it around and leave the bugs in there.
I've seen a painting of yours where you actually have little shells.
Yeah.
In it.
Yeah. That was another period of time.
Yeah, another period.
I've gotten up to date now where we're going to Mare Island now, and I should mention Mare Island because it's a wonderful resource for art and culture, and there people are moving into, they're building homes out there, and they're using it for cultural reasons, and people can rent those places. But we go out there and they have the old cranes those are actually on wheels on railroad tracks. Those are enormous. Those things. You could live in those things up there.
Really?
Yeah. And so I've done a whole bunch of those recently, and they take on the feeling of an Imperial Walker out of Star Wars. They look like some big monster. These big old clobby things. And we got Phil Joy now, and the boatyard. This is like almost 3 stories high. There's actually the whole story up here. You can't really tell, but it's on wheels right now. He's got it up on these enormous big wheels that he can move around, because it's being set on a new foundation, which this is part of my work. I'm designing the structure of the foundations and the bracing.
As an engineer in your
my engineer body.
Professional work.
And this thing he found up in Napa, and they were going to put a golf course out there. And this old building, they were just going to tear it down. And he said he wanted to buy it from him. It took him 5 years to pull the deal off, but he went up there and put it on wheels and wheeled it onto a barge on the Napa River and floated it down the river down to his boatyard. And this is down at C or D Street, right in there on the old.
Right off First Street in Benicia.
Yeah, right off First Street.
Yeah.
And And so he's refurbishing it for a bed and breakfast right there. And so it's a wonderful thing. We have the Benicia group has paint outs there, and people paint this. And there's all this. This is an old barge where the thing drops down. Stuff all over this yard to paint. And that's another wonderful resource for art, as well as Mare Island.
Now, you mentioned the Benicia group. Who are you referring to now?
The Benicia group? Well, there's...
Is that Doug group?
Yeah, DAR group. They call it Benicia Plein Air Group. And it's, I think, over 100 people that have gotten on the mailing list that at any one time there could be any from 1 or 2 dozen people. And sometimes they come out just every now and then, but there's a hardcore that paint together every week.
And how did that group come into being?
I was going to go painting, and I said, let's go painting. They said, could I call so-and-so and come paint? I said, oh, absolutely, sure, of course, And so they told somebody, and they told somebody, and all of a sudden there's a dozen, and then there's 2 dozen, and someone told this, somebody told that, and we're still getting every week. We still get somebody that.
Is that right?
And we've got a website. Sue developed a website for us, and it's called Plein Air Links.
Yeah.
Plein Air Links, links.com. And you can get all the information as to where we're going to go, the dates and directions and how to get there. And she puts little videos like she's shooting right now on the website.
Yeah.
And this is what we did last time out at China Camp, and we had a party and da-da-da.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Do you ever give instruction during any of those paint-outs, or is instruction given, or is it just for fun?
Do I? No. I know I said, this is the deal. Last year I had a heart problem, and I was knocked out for several. I wrote to everybody and I said, Norman Cousins cured himself of cancer because he laughed all the time. I said, anybody who sends me jokes, at least 2 jokes, will get a free class when I get back on my feet. And so people were sending me all these jokes, and so when I got feeling better, I said, okay, now we got this free workshop. And everybody that sent me jokes. Yeah. And they're still sending me jokes. Oh. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, that is great.
Yeah.
We're at the Epperson Gallery now, and what is the title of the show?
It's called Let's Have a Look.
Let's Have a Look.
And that's something that Pam Glover would always say. We'd pull up to a place that looked interesting to paint.
Oh, okay.
And we'd get out to take a look at the scenery, and she'd say, "Okay, let's have a look." And it's a little bit of English. Let's have a look.
Let's have a look, Ducky.
Let's have a look. And so we'd get out and look, and then this happened enough, so we started saying this when she wasn't there.
I see.
I'd say, "Well, let's have a look." And so all of a sudden, it became a Pam-ism. And so I thought, well, that'd be good for this show.
So this show opens December 5th at Epperson Gallery.
It opens December 5th and runs through January 10th.
And runs through January. Well, Jerry, now that we've talked about so much of your earlier work, let's talk about where you are now and how you feel about what you're doing and anything that might have changed emotionally or psychologically or stylistically during the years from when you first started with that first plein air painting we looked at. Can we look at an example?
Okay, well, I think I did several midlife crises before, and there was always a jump start into a new style or something. Now I'm in the old age crisis, and I'm enjoying every day I have.
Great.
Because you never know how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
So
show us one of those.
Huh?
Show us one of those paintings.
Some of my old age crisis?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, these are all new. That one up in Virginia City, and those 2, and this one is Virginia City. Those are all pretty new. This is pretty new. Those are the ones I've been doing, and I think there's. I would have to say probably. I don't have any real conscious thought about what I'm going to do now. I really don't. I just whatever comes up.
One day at a time.
Yeah. Depending on how I feel, and you just go out and paint, and whatever happens. One thing you have to do is to remember that. This is getting philosophical, but that we're not painting those paintings. We're these are gifts, that we're able to do something that never happened before. This has never happened before. These paintings and they're really gifts. They're not, it's like we're not really doing it. We're just being the vehicles for it, and to be very thankful for the chance to do this, because it really enhances our life and everybody else's life. And I think I'm in the place now where I really appreciate the process. Like, this is such a gift. It's such a gift to be able to be with people and paint with them, and to give things to them, and enjoy, and share this stuff. So I'm in that kind of appreciation mold, and every day I just think, God, this is great, because I have a live-work studio, and I get up in the morning and I go from the bedroom, walk through the studio into the kitchen, and I got all this stuff on the wall, and looking at it like, I need a little there, well, maybe I need a little over in there, and that's a dog, I'm gonna throw that on, and then I walk into the kitchen, and I got something I want for breakfast, and I go, God, what a great day. The sun's out like this. I think, doesn't get any better than this. So you could say that for your life, really. It doesn't get any better than this.
Well, thank you, Jerry. It's been fascinating.
Well, thank you.
You're the best.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue.
Oh, that's great. I love what you said.
I do too. I have chills.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I have
You guys
protected it.
Let's eat.